Hi, everyone. I am Julie Roth-Novak, CEO and co-founder of PartySlate. Welcome to our second session of the main event. This is the biggest virtual event that we've ever hosted, and I am really, really excited for this panel because what I know is this much compared to this panel about producing large-scale virtual conferences, galas, fundraisers, even social events. And so I think it's going to be a great interactive session. If you could change your chat to all panelists and attendees, we'd love to hear where you are zooming in from. We are excited that we have people registered not only from all over the US, but from all over the world for this conference. And this is just, again, silver lining of pandemic is more extensive virtual events and being able to reach more people. So I'm always looking for that silver lining. So without further ado, I want to introduce this literal like rock star panel that we've pulled together. Yes. And I am so excited to interview Ken Arlen, who is the founder and head of Arlen Music Productions. He's not only an incredible saxophonist. Is that the right way to say it, Ken?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I'm not a musician. He has performed with Bruno Mars, New Year's Eve in Las Vegas. You have performed all over the country. You have multiple entertainment acts from large-scale bands to trios. So excited about the amazing work you've been doing during this pandemic to help, especially fundraisers, really live their mission and raise critical funds. So Ken, tell us just a little bit about how you got started in the industry and about your company, and then I'll move on to the other panelists.
Sure. Well, first, Julie, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this incredible panel. And thank you for creating a platform that has been so impactful in our industry, PartySlate. So going back a few years, I started my career right out of college as a gigging musician, saxophonist, performing in clubs and touring. And early in my career, I got the opportunity to be the music director for a cruise boat line. So I provided all the entertainment for 7 ships. And that stoked my ambition to focus more on performing for special events as a band leader. And here in Chicago, we have so many incredible musicians. I was able to assemble a great band and kind of grassroots grew my company organically over the years. Today, Arlen Music Productions has 75 employees. We produce about 400 to 500 events a year, focusing on producing live music for the national special event industry. And you mentioned New Year's Eve at the Bellagio. We also do fundraisers, corporate events, social events, inaugural balls. We've played presidential inaugural balls, gubernatorial, and the rest is history. It's been a lot of fun. Well, what's funny about it is when I run into people and I tell them I do music for a living, they always say the same thing, which is, wait a second, you do music, but what do you actually do for a living?
That's just a gig, right?
Yeah. Right. They can't understand that it's possible.
Yes. Well, you built a really good brand, and I've seen you guys perform many times, and you're incredible. So thank you, Ken, for being here. Darren, we met very early on, PartySlate's history. I think it was at the special event in Orlando, and you've been a big supporter of PartySlate, and you love to give me a hard time, which I like since the very beginning.
Nature.
It's your nature. And one of our most exciting launches, I think it was our 2-year anniversary party in New York, or a New York launch party. I can't remember what it was.
You nailed it. Too many parties.
You really blew it out of the room with not only one act, but probably 4 or 5 different acts. And you're known for creating custom entertainment, also your larger scale acts. And you've also jumped into this virtual event world head first, helping your clients in a time when they really need help. So tell us a little bit how you got started and your company.
Yeah, not unlike Ken, we've been in the business, the music industry for a little over 30 years, and it really became a right place, right time, where our business is now in 2020, or where it was pre-COVID, we won't talk about that, but is about customization. It's about working with clients and curating experiences, one-off. So, we end up putting together music, immersive acts, really, really specialized performers that create, a really interesting program. So, where that's great for social and our bands play weddings like everybody else, our acts are featured at many different kinds of events. And so it was sort of a natural progression into, adapting to the virtual world. And in fact, when we were starting to do virtual in the beginning of the pandemic, it was really much more about having a place for our artists to keep, just to keep creating.
Yeah.
This was before any clients were doing any kind of virtual. We were still experimenting it. We were doing virtual events just for the sake of our sanity.
Yeah.
And then the marketplace caught on. And then, the corporate clients that we've had annually for years and years, and our nonprofits started getting into this, let's just say they had to get on the bandwagon because they have to do their events. So we think it's going to be here, and it's going to be a piece of events for here till who knows how long, but I think it's going to be a fun way we can all adapt in our industry. So that's what we're doing now.
Right. And Adam, you're our techie. So if anything goes wrong, you're here to support us. BlackOak Productions is a part of Kehoe Designs. And you guys started this new brand because even well before the pandemic, tech, projection mapping, audio, visual, lighting, such an important part of really bringing a large scale event to life was created. And so when the pandemic hit, BlackOak was very well positioned to jump, headfirst into helping really produce these virtual events. And behind you, I love is your control room where literally there's 10 people with headsets that are controlling these large scale events. So tell us a little bit about BlackOak.
Yeah, absolutely. I am not a musician. I cannot play a single instrument. So, but we try and help our musician friends sound amazing during their events. But yeah, BlackOak started almost 10 years ago as an internal division of Kehoe Designs, grown organically ever since then, across sort of the full spectrum of event types and clients and around the country. And 2 years ago, we launched as a separate brand within the Kehoe Designs portfolio, and that's BlackOak Techno Productions. And then, Julie, like you said, a year into a new brand, we totally pivoted and added a whole different set of capabilities to what we're doing to support all the virtual and hybrid and events that are going on.
Great. Well, we've done a couple events with you and we really appreciate your expertise. So thank you for being here. And so the first question I'll put out to you guys is, really you have all been involved with, again, this, there's a difference between the Zoom meeting and the smaller scale with these large scale productions where there's a lot at stake. It could be raising millions of dollars for a nonprofit that's providing mission critical services. It could be a large product launch, or even just creating family memories that are really important during this crazy time. So I'd love for each of you to share, what has your experience been pulling together these large scale events, and maybe just talk a little bit about maybe one or two events that you've worked on that could help bring to light what it takes to produce one of these events. So Ken, why don't you start? I know beforehand we talked a little bit about your experience.
Yeah.
Love to hear from your perspective.
Yeah, unlike Darren, prior to COVID-19, my focus was 100% on producing live music for special events.
Yeah.
But many of my clients are charitable organizations, and because of COVID, they were these events canceled over the last year. So we were kind of thrust into the virtual world. And I wanted to keep those relationships. Most of them have rescheduled for down the road. And I wanted to add value wherever I could. And my expertise is entertainment. So fortunately, all of these events have traditionally had entertainment at their live events. So it was a natural fit for us to talk about adding, entertainment to their virtual events. And as a band leader and MC, I've got a good feel for flow and the impact that entertainment can have, which applies very much to the virtual arena. But they definitely have their special set of challenges. Instead of a 4 to 6 hour live performance, you're trying to create like 3-minute entertainment segments, or very short and compressed segments. So it requires an incredible amount of focus and commitment and time actually to get a great result. And behind the scenes, we've had some tough experiences. We had, you know, as we're making some of these like larger band virtual videos, and it takes so much time. You're submitting like 15 separate parts virtually. You have to extract audio and video, mix them both separately. And the day before our deadline, our computer crashed. We lost our hard drive. We lost all of our content.
Oh my
We
gosh.
had to recreate. We didn't lose the content, but we lost the mix. We had to recreate that mix. And you know, we were successful in getting everything done on time. But what I've learned from that is, boy, give yourself a lot of lead time
Yeah.
when you're working on these events. And, you know, so those kind of experiences are very potent after you've lived through them.
Yeah. And I think the key is like you don't
Yeah.
have these 2 or 3 hours of live events, but it still takes a lot of time. There's an educational process to understand. So the client can understand, like, when it's not going to pop on a Zoom and it's going to be this amazing harmonized experience, that it's really a lot of almost like TV production that has to happen.
It's so true, Julie. And it's basically you're producing a TV show with people that have never worked in TV.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big challenges.
Yes.
And
yes.
and it's challenging for my clients.
Yeah.
And all of them have commented on how difficult it was for them. And I think people across the board are telling me it's 10 times more difficult than doing their live events.
Yeah.
And my world is, you know, mostly working with the galas and the fundraisers. I think some of the corporate conferences that, you know, Darren and Adam can speak to probably are more used to this, but the galas have never done it before. Most
Never.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even the corporate clients that I used to do a lot of corporate events, they may have had a streaming component to their event, but not an engaging show, so to speak.
And
so
to
I
make
think it's educational process across the board.
And it's got to be entertaining, and you
Yeah.
have to keep a captive audience, and that's the challenge.
Yeah, well, I'm
And there's
excited after the webinar, we're going to show some of your video entertainment. So you'll get people on this will get a taste for all your hard work, which I think is so compelling. So Darren, same question to you. Tell us a little bit about your experience with these large scale virtual events.
I think it was a trial and error in the beginning of the pandemic when some companies and organizations were getting into virtual when they really weren't putting much thought into it. They, you know, we're having a 4-hour event. Well, let's have a 4-hour virtual event.
Yeah.
We literally had some 3-4 hour virtuals when we started.
Wow.
Horrible.
Horrible.
And listen, I've had clients call me back and say, if we don't make our next one better, I'm going to get fired. I mean, it was that bad, you know, and they were trying to stretch out acts that really shouldn't have been stretched out. So I think now that has come to pass, and the best events that we're doing right now and that we've done recently are the variety shows is the best way to explain them, because they are quick. And Ken, you mentioned it, every segment we do is quick. We like to have interstitial that gets you from one segment to the next. So you tell a story. We just did a great event for City Harvest, which is a big New York City organization that helps feed the food poor here in New York, and great group. We've been doing their events for years in person. Their first virtual, which by the way raised $400,000 more than their live event last year. So they raised over $2 million for this last event, and they only raised about $1.5 million last time. So I think that has a lot to do with the atmosphere of where we are in the pandemic, and people felt like giving. But here's what we did. We made a show that did not let the audience go. As soon as we captivated everybody from the minute they logged on to this screen, you know, we had content both live and pre-recorded. And that's some of the things that we've been educating our clients to lately, which is to be able to combine both. So you can pre-record things that are very, very complicated, so we can make sure we have exactly, you know, the take we want, but you still want a live event. If I see someone in our chat bar right now, like, oh, hi, Stephanie. Hey, hi, glad you just joined. That little bit of live engages everybody too. So this City Harvest event, we're going to show a 60-second clip that you have, Jules. So I'm going to let everybody see that later. And I think you'll see what we did. It was a really great compilation of really unique performances, touching pieces from celebrities, you know, really heartfelt pieces. So it took everybody on a ride from, you know, exhilarated to heartfelt, and you wouldn't even believe an hour went by. You're like, I want more. So I think that's what we want people to see.
It's amazing. keeping people engaged, but also getting them to open their wallet. And I think, again, having people know and connected to the charity or the cause is so key. So that's amazing. Adam, over to you. I know you've been doing fundraisers and a lot of corporate events and social. You guys have a studio in addition to helping, with your control center that's behind you. Talk a little bit about this experience when the pandemic hit. How you quickly, set up this offering to help your clients.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that we found most interesting is that every client that we've had that has added a virtual component has been happy that they did. We haven't had clients come back and say, I wish I didn't do that, even if it struggled, even if there was challenges, but the fact that they are taking that risk and being out there right now really differentiates them amongst all the organizations that for whatever reason aren't doing that right now. And that's part of why we have, a control room that helps with the virtual events, a studio, so you can do some hybrid events. But really, I think, a lot of what we are helping our clients work through is what can we do better for our audience right now? And, a huge part of that is absolutely the entertainment and and going back to that custom idea of custom entertainment. What can I do with my entertainment that makes it special, that makes it live, that makes it really valuable to that person who's shown up and given out their time during this.
Absolutely. And when you think about that engagement, Darren, you touched on this a little bit, but what are the most effective ways? And I'm glad you talked about the time period, because our first digital event, I think we had was 2 hours, and wait a second, this is way too long. So now we always do 45 minutes to an hour. For a conference, it's different. People come in and out. It's not expected that you're going to be 2 full days, at every single session, but how do you keep people engaged so that you don't get them to either multitask or do something else, or because you want that opportunity to message to them. You want to provide value in exchange for a donation or whatever the action is you want. What do you guys do, Darren? I'll start with you to keep them engaged. Yeah.
Well, like I said before, I think the first thing you have to do is really examine your content. So if you're putting together a show, what's the storyline of what the show is going to be. So if it's 30 or 60 minutes, I don't care what the time is, but shorter is better, period. You could just say that right across the board, shorter. If a client says the time, tell them to cut it by 15 minutes, no matter what. Okay. But the storyline has to keep people involved. So that honestly, the scripting that we've been doing for our shows and the run of shows that we're helping our clients do, moving pieces around so they make sense and keep people engaged from start to finish. We find one of the strongest things is a powerful, I say interstitials, but it's a host, Ken, right? I mean, a great MC across the board will keep people at the beginning and the end of each segment involved. Don't go anywhere or welcome back. Those simple things in between each segment of your show is super, super powerful. And so short segments, tying them together with an MC or some sort of tie from what you just showed to what you're about to see is super critical.
That's amazing. And Ken, I have seen you live at, I think it was the Children's Hospital or at Children's Foundation. I don't even know. I should know what it is. But you are an amazing in-person MC. And I know the gala ladies so appreciate that, because again, this is their opportunity to get people to connect to the charity, and it flows from the speaker to the video to, it's so important. What have you seen to keep people engaged in these events?
Yeah, I think you have to, for my charitable events, you have to stay super focused on the message and definitely take a less is more approach. We will say many times these events really can't exceed an hour. So you have to edit, no matter how much content you get. And when you produce the inspirational videos, go for it. You're like the highest production value. Hire Adam to do it for you. He'll do a great job. And then having a director that's got a great sense of timing to pull it all together, that has a really great sense of flow. I call him the flow maestro. And make sure that you communicate to your speakers to stay on point with their messaging. And if you have multiple speakers, don't let them overlap and don't let them go long-winded. And from an entertainment perspective, I always say open with a big big, impactful, I call it the attention grabber, something very dynamic at the beginning. You want to end with something that's very inspirational and heartfelt. And then your entertainment in the middle should be fun and lighthearted. And there's a lot of ways that you can go with that. There's so many options. And, you know, the other thing is that this virtual platform gives us the opportunity to really make an intimate connection. When I'm performing live an event, I'm up on a stage in a big ballroom and there's people, you know, 200 feet away taking me in. But when we're doing something virtual, you're seeing my face like you are right now. So you can take advantage of that intimacy and really mold that to create a better and more engaging experience.
That's great. Yeah. And Adam, what are you seeing from your side? I actually love the point you made, Ken, about a director. I think that's something that also people don't realize is the person directing and bringing the story together. And it might be one of you guys playing that role, but someone has to play the role of director, again, just like a TV show. Adam, what have you seen?
Yeah, I think the point about a director is a great point, and it can be a huge bang for the buck to have someone involved in that manner. I think one of the things that we are really thinking about around engagement is separating engagement and interactivity. Engagement is, am I paying attention? Am I invested in what's going on? And interactivity is, am I doing something? You know, I could be very interactive, but not very engaged. You know, I could be texting, but not paying attention. Or I could be really engaged with some fantastic musical pieces and performances and really interesting moments, but not interacting at all and just enjoying it. And so I think really working through that as an organization of which one do you need? Which one do you want? Is it engagement or is it interactivity?
Or both, yeah.
Or both. And
probably
interactivity
both.
might contribute to engagement.
Yeah,
but at the
because you
same
can't
time,
get them to interact if they're not engaged and they're not interested. But I'm really glad you brought that up, because the interactivity of, you know, whether it's an experience of getting them to chat or ask questions or lean in. I know people have done photo booths, they've done breakout rooms, whatever that interactivity is a valuable piece to get them engaged. So I know when I do my weekly geeky digital marketing, you know, I love it when people interact and shout out from Australia and questions. And so I think that's a really, really good point. So next question is really important, because I found some people in this space, they'll like, Julie, who should I work with? We need to do this virtual gal. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, the first thing I like to ask, because I'm a good salesperson, is, do you have a set aside budget? And so like, there's the people that have $500 and there's the people that, oh yeah, we have a, you know, $50,000 budget that we can use part of it or all of it, whatever. So thinking about timeline, which is connected to budget because time is money. How do you think about educating clients about the timelines it takes to actually do one of these large scale events? Because this does not come together overnight. That's like saying, do a pilot for a TV show, I need it tomorrow, right? So it doesn't work that way. So Darren, why don't we start with you?
Oh, I got fresh. This one's fresh,
Okay,
literally. This is about a half an hour old right before this call. So we just booked a virtual event for December 18th. It's a recurring client, a large corporate client that we've done for years. And they have a holiday event every year. And this is their virtual holiday event. So we've been working on weeks and weeks, tweaking what this potential lineup of talent and ideas would be. I finally called her this morning and I was like, do realize that we're not performing on the 18th, some of these things. Many of these things will be filmed that need to get into production now. Like we are weeks away. We have to film, like, I think there's 16 or 15 segments to this event. It's a pretty robust program. And we literally have to get into the studio immediately and start filming. So that is a huge awareness we need to bring to client, that in pre-recording, which we want to do for many of these events, are you putting enough time in your schedule for pre-recording? And you talked about budget too, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's cheaper because we can do it on a random Tuesday morning rather than a Thursday or a Saturday evening for the big gala. I mean, it really does take more time and effort to get all the technicians together. You know, the background right here, this is our studio, this is our cabaret space in New York City. So we're filming a lot of the productions that we put on people's virtuals here, but it's still crews, and Adam could talk about that of people that have to be involved, from sound to audio to lighting to you name it. So it's pretty massive.
Yeah, and I think that the investment, it shows when it's really thought through and strategic. And again, depending on what your objective is for your event, you have to decide how much you want to put into it, because this is not something that just can be thrown together. I can tell you.
And that's what's going on right now with the second wave. People did it on a shoestring the first time, and they saw the results and they saw the quality and how poor it was. And that all leads to engagement and interactivity and everything we're talking about.
Yeah.
But, when you talk about, a higher level broadcast quality event, it's night and day.
And so what timeline would you want, Darren? So like, let's say you're doing a large scale gala or large scale corporate event. What is your kind of minimum or typical timeline that you need?
Well, in my experience, a lot of those, unless they're recurring, they book pretty close to their dates anyway. And in reality, we put those things together in a few weeks or a month or two. But a 2-month time frame right now is respectable. It gives us enough time to get into the creative. It gives us enough time to, by the way, get versions to our clients, because we do this with our clients where we'll do a test run and have them approve or disapprove of something so that we can tweak.
Yes. Yeah.
But you need time.
What about you, Ken? I know you've done a lot of these events in Chicago.
There's an old saying in this business, how much time does something take? And the answer is, how much time do I have?
Yeah.
But I 100% agree with Darren. And I think you need more time to produce these virtual events. I can do a live event next week and it can be spectacular, because that's what we do. That we're churning the wheel of those types of events. And we can even make it customized because we have huge libraries. But when it gets to the virtual world, you need a lot of lead time. And I think, 2 months minimum. Ideally, I think you should have your content a month before, so you can just start playing with it and, editing your content. The other thing is that, you talked about the money aspect. People have this expectation that it doesn't cost anything for entertainment. And, granted, we've donated a lot of our entertainment to our charities because we have ongoing relationships. And we realize that many of them may only raise 50% of what they would normally raise at their annual gala. And we also know that these are events that are going to come back to us in the future. But I think in general, as we move into the future, and entertainment has to have more wow factor, especially as we move into the realm of booking celebrity entertainers. I've been involved in contacting a lot of celebrity entertainers, and their agents are saying, hey, if you want them there, and even if it's on Zoom, you have to pay at least 70% of what their normal live performance rate is, which can be astronomical for a lot of these events. So our challenge is finding a sweet spot for celebrities that are willing to do these events in a, is that you, Julie?
People have told me they like the in the background.
It's endearing. It's so endearing.
Yeah, mute that animal. But so budgets have to be commensurate and respectful. And I think as we move down the road with these virtual events, I think budgets will have to increase for entertainment.
Yeah, and Adam, before A sparks again, what's your perspective on timeline?
I think Ken had the right answer with how much time do we have? And, there's a design and development process, there's a prototype process, and then there's the launch and production process. And depending on what the timeline is, one of those is going to become compressed, or all of them are going to become compressed, and that just balances it out. And we've certainly done virtual events with 2 or 3 days of turnaround, and then we've also done them with 3 months. And 2 or 3 days, it's like, cool, it'll be straightforward and normal approach. You start extending that timeline, you get to spend more time in the design phase, make it really interesting, help differentiate your event from maybe another organization that only had 2 or 3 days to pull it all together.
I educate my gala friends, that are doing these things, like, when you do the pitch video during the gala, like there's a pitch video that's created. That is not done overnight. That pitch video is at least 3 months of work.
Yeah.
And so imagine the pitch video times 10. So that's how I try to educate people, that there's a lot of components that need to come together. But that's why we're glad to do sessions like this. We have many gala hosts that are joining the session today. And I think also event planners that haven't done this, it's really important that everyone's on the same page, that these are not quick Zooms that you stand up. These are productions that are a lot of stake, a lot is at stake with these events. So talking about a lot at stake, and this is really timely after my dog, probably saw a squirrel out the window and went crazy. What are things that can go wrong during these virtual events? What have you seen? And I think sometimes people are like, oh, it kind of makes it fun. Or I have a kid, running in here fighting. I haven't had that happen before. But I've also had, like in the early days of the pandemic, we did an event where the whole system crashed and we got everyone to Insta Live. And what have you guys seen? And maybe I'll start with you, Adam, the techie on the call.
Sure.
What have you seen that has gone wrong and what have you learned from it to recover?
Yeah, pretty much anything. I mean, and that's the thing, in a virtual event, you have 100 things strung together and any one of those has an issue and the screen goes blank. And that's probably the biggest difference is not more things are going wrong or different things are going wrong than an in-person event. It's just, that's the whole event. When you're at a real event, if the band stops playing for a minute, it's fine. You go to the bar, you grab a drink, you grab a snack, you chat with someone. If you're at home watching the screen on your own, and that screen's blank for 30 seconds, probably gone, closed out, and not coming back. Yeah. So we work through a pretty robust risk mitigation strategy for each event and make sure we understand what are the risks that could happen, what do we do in each case, so then when things go wrong, we have a good approach in place that's tried and true and can either retain people while we fix the problem or just prevent the problem.
We always have a backup to the backup. So, Kylie, you guys can't see here in this event, is in the background. Like, let's say my Zoom goes out, Kylie comes in and takes over. So we have learned from the early days, backup to the backup. And for what you guys are doing, these larger scale events, even more important. Darren, what have you seen kind of go wrong? And
in the beginning, we saw bandwidth issues. We saw things that happened because people are learning, even like people that are novices at this were learning terms like latency. Whoever even knew what the hell that was until we got into virtual, right? I mean, but now I know what it is. So yeah, we did see glitches from the plat. And listen, we're in the entertainment business, we're in the live event business. So I mean, how many events have we been on where we've seen a mic go out or anything else like that live? So that could happen in the virtual just the same. But we filmed something here in our cabaret a few weeks ago. It was a game show and it was an interactive. So we were polling and all the guests that were attending were part of the event, answering questions, leaderboards. So all the stats and all the information was real time happening on screen. So everybody was engaged and happening. The problem is that our, let's just call it director, was our client. Like our client assumed the role that they probably shouldn't have. I don't think they knew what they were biting off when they said, well, you're the one that's going to be in their ears listening to control while you're directing talent on stage. And there were glitches in that respect that were the client's fault because they were directing. I mean, what am I supposed to say? Hey,
so note to self, don't let the client be the director.
Yeah, we thought we were being
No
so
offense.
magnanimous. We were like, come in, we'll have some wine, you can direct. And then they're like, oh, really? We can do that? Yeah, it was our fault. We gave them that power.
It's good you can admit you were wrong and you learned from it.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Ken? What have you seen go wrong?
Well, we've talked about the running out of time in preparation and the stress that can create in terms of compiling content. But I think it's really important to have a really well-conceived itinerary before you even start collecting your content. And I think it's important to pre-think all of your transitions because you can make a pre-recorded event appear live with transitions. Like if I go, well, thanks, Julie. And when I'm done, I'll go, Darren, I'm passing over to you. Those kinds of transitions can be pre-recorded. But then in order to not have to go back and re-record them because you want to make changes in your order, it's great to have just a really great architectural game plan pre-designed. Just the more work that you can put in at the beginning.
It's not even a run of show. It's like a script, kind of like a script.
Yeah. It's got it's like an art. You wouldn't think of building a house without going to an architect first and having intricate drawings made up before you send it to your contractor. Yeah. So that's a service that we can provide for our clients and rein them in and encourage them to do all the pre-thinking because that's going to prevent a lot of things from going wrong. But on the technical side, no question what Darren and Adam have alluded to, the platform issues just seem to keep creeping up. There's always some latency, or all of a sudden the audio track is not syncing with the video track, and or glitches. And that's just an ongoing issue, because when people are consuming these virtual events, you can't control the devices that they're consuming them on.
Yes.
So if they have a slow or an antiquated device, then it's not going to look good, and there's really not much you can do about that, and that's frustrating.
Yeah. And I wanted to add, we had a couple questions from the audience about platforms, and I don't know if any of you would like to. Darren, I know you've used quite a few platforms, and Adam, you guys can both do custom, landing page experiences and platforms, but also leverage some of the best platforms out there. Darren, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's
then I'll throw it over to Adam too, because I know they're building them custom for their clients. And we're an entertainment, we're a talent provider, so
Mm-hmm.
we're not a technical company. So what if we had to find the right providers out there to partner with to make these events seamless? And we've tried, and we've experimented, and then we've landed on some. The platforms have come a long way in but month by month, they are really getting better and better, both with incorporating video chat, both with incorporating live and pre-recorded, latency issues, interactivity. So, we've now been getting into gaming and game show and as part of the events that we do, which 6 months ago was impossible, not happening. And now it is. And look at that turnaround. It's like coming up with a vaccine. You put Operation Warp Speed into virtual event, and it's happening.
Operation Virtual Event.
Yeah. So there are platforms out there, and there are companies out there that are really putting their programmers into high speed, coming up with amazing new technologies, literally weekly. Yeah.
Great. And Adam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. There are hundreds of platforms.
Yes.
And, we really encourage our clients to start with just dream big about your event and then find the platform that fits.
Yes.
Instead of trying to fit an event into a platform, and that's part of where the custom platform experience and website that we're building for our clients comes from, is then they get to design, they get to get their dream. And that's really exciting. So.
And then we talked earlier about how these virtual events are a great way to showcase sponsors. Event sponsors, in my experience, often make the difference between really making a good profit, for a fundraiser, so making good money for the charity or not. How do you incorporate sponsors and their needs into the virtual event? I don't know, Darren, if you want to start.
It comes from great planning, and obviously a lot of the nonprofits that we work with already have long-standing sponsor partners that they've had year after year. But the lowest hanging fruit is obviously in the pre-recorded videos. The City Harvest event that I mentioned just a little while ago, one of the segments, and they're very much involved with the celebrity chefs and great restaurants around New York. We went on location to those restaurants of those sponsor partners and filmed some of the segments at their restaurants and had that incorporated into the show. Obviously, from the platform side, the lowest hanging fruit, when you look at your screen and, the video is embedded in one part, obviously we're on Zoom right now, but in a great virtual world, you might have chat on the right, you might have a feed on the left, you might have the bottom, but, the donate now button is on one side and a sponsor is right next to it. So just from the terms of visibility, it's going to be on your screen, but it should be in content, and it should be thoughtfully produced into the storyline that I keep bringing up. Nobody wants to be sold a used car during their show. So if you put some thought into your sponsors and have them, but that goes for anything. That's not a virtual thing. That's not rocket science. We all know.
I think the good thing for sponsors is there's actually some things you can measure, like number of impressions and number of click-throughs versus an event. They know they're seen, or they might be in that guidebook that sometimes people throw away, and so I think that there is really a good opportunity for sponsors to actually have metrics and real-time reporting on how their brand was viewed.
Yeah. We filmed an event last week, and we had the product in the cabaret in our space. So we actually, some of the prizes that were given away as part of this event were given by sponsors, but we had them send it to us in advance so we could have it live on camera. So there's little nuances there. Yeah.
Awesome. So we have time for a couple more questions. This is one that has come in from our audience to the panel. What do you think, so we're 7 months into this pandemic, where do you see this moving forward? And I know there's been a lot of talk of hybrid events. I'm very optimistic that good things are coming from this and our expertise that we're creating. Ken, why don't we start with you? Where do you think this is going in the future?
Sure. Well, in the beginning, for the fundraiser arena, people were very forgiving. And the people that were attending these events were what I call the captive audience. And in many cases, as Darren referred to, production value wasn't great. They were doing 3 and 4 hour events, which is hard to even imagine for me. I had to attend one that was an hour and a half, and that was painful. But now I believe there's definitely a growing expectation for better production, better entertainment, a more focused use of time. And also as I said earlier, making that intimate connection to the message of the charity. So as producers and entertainers, I think we're going to have to get more creative with our ideas for really wowing future audiences. And, there's so much that we can do, and that, we're never short on creative ideas. It's just having clients that are as enthusiastic as we are, and willing to value the investment that they can make in entertainment and the impact that it can have. Because these events are going to get competitive, and there's no question that there's going to be a virtual arena moving into the future, but there's also no question that people are going to want to get back to their live events and all the wonderful aspects of that. I mean, you can't dance and have a full dance floor sitting looking at your computer screen. But I think, we'll probably talk a little bit more later, but there are going to be a lot of ways of incorporating live streaming and kind of a live hybrid virtual aspect to these events so that you can cast a larger net. And if there's a donor who attends every year but lives in Phoenix and can't make it that date, then they can now participate and watch the event unfold.
Yeah, and they can still contribute and maybe even get more content.
Still feel a part of it. Yeah, yes. I think that's going to be a whole new aspect of this moving into the future.
Darren, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's gonna creep into the social arena more. I think the corporate and the nonprofit, and they're doing it almost by necessity right now. But if you got married a year ago and had a beautiful wedding, you wouldn't dream of broadcasting it anywhere onto an internet or maybe an IG Live, a little clip, right? But I see it now being discussed for social events next year. Not only because we all feel like we're going to be able to get back to events in limited capacity, maybe partially, but it'll always be there. We wired up our cabaret. Why? Because we can do a show and have 20, 30 people come and see a band play. Great. But how many people that just can't make it and just can log on? It takes 2 seconds. You click on it and you go see. So if you're a bride and you're getting married and you could have your 200 friends there, but there's some that can't, it should be an easy, turnkey, not very expensive option to just elect the hybrid, if you want, select the virtual to go along with it. Your video crew is already there. You already have a videographer. You already have a photographer. Just have them broadcast it.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And Adam, did you want to add anything to?
I think what we're looking at is sort of the arc of sports since 50, 60 years ago, where sports used to be in person only, and then they moved to really virtual events where they were just broadcasting the games. And now sports is a really mature industry that has this amazing in-person component and amazing virtual. What's that?
They're hybrid events.
They're hybrid events.
Football games as hybrid events.
And they are, and people love going to the game, but people also love having their friends over to watch the game in their own home. And I think that is what the future of private special events could look like.
Yeah, I think that's amazing.
Julie, can I add one thing to that from the gala point of view? There's no question that the live galas are going to come back strong, and people have missed putting on the elegant threads, socializing with friends, getting on the dance floor. But I can see the one annual gala being augmented by quarterly virtual events that are more targeted and more specific and cast again a wider net. So I think that's going to be a great strategy for a lot of the charitable events moving forward.
Instead of just the email newsletters, they try to keep in touch from year to year, having those interim events that aren't as big of a time commitment, but still something fun or engaging or great speaker, great entertainment. I really see that approach happening, and nothing will replace in-person events. And I so strongly believe that. We can't wait to get back together, and there is nothing like an inspiring event to inspire people. But I think this additional layer for the people that can't be there, or someone that lives in Australia that feels close to this charity, can participate in some way. So I am really optimistic that good things are coming of it. But to wrap it up, because I know we have a lot of questions, we didn't get to everyone's questions, but we will give everyone's contact information so you can reach out to these experts directly. But a couple of people have asked me like lessons learned. So if you could actually think back kind of to the last 9 months, any advice or lessons learned that you could share with our audience today. Adam, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. I think, some of the biggest lessons we've learned is stay flexible, stay creative, and really think about what you can set you apart in your event. There's a ton of competition for engagement and for attention, and really focus on that. And then, if you do an event, be proud that you're doing something. And even if it doesn't go quite as imagined and it wasn't the flawless that, we Emmy Award show that we hoped for, just be proud that you had that and you stayed relevant and stayed connected.
My dog barking in the background, that was I planned that.
Planned it. Yeah, there you go.
I planned it. Yeah. Ken, what about you? Lesson learned, insight you can share with our audience?
Yeah, I think when you have the right team and the right approach and the right focus, you can get a fantastic result. And all of the charitable events that I've had the honor of being involved in, the money they raise surpassed their expectations. Yeah. And so that is a big lesson. I mean, we've talked about all the pros and cons and the difficulties and and the aspects that are unique to virtual that don't necessarily apply to live. But I think, the biggest lesson that I've learned is that it can be a really viable tool, especially in the charitable arena, to raise money.
Yeah. Darren, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Listen, I mean, if you would have asked people a year ago or 10 months ago, pre-pandemic, whether or not we'd even do these Zooms, I mean, we weren't meeting clients on video calls. You would call or you would meet. So right. Now this is, even a Zoom has become part of our social structure. What we're doing right now is not out of the ordinary. This is never going away. So now you can relate that to the actual event itself. Having a virtual event right now is not scary. It's not something that people are going to look at and go, oh, why would you do that? In the beginning, people are like, oh, wow, I don't know. Now it has become the lexicon of the event world. It's here. And now the best advice we can give to professionals is just pretty simple. Keep it short, keep it spicy. Make sure your content is engaging from the minute you start to the minute you end. Put some well thought out structure to what you're going to have at your event, and it's going to be great. And people that are going to be sitting in front of a computer, don't forget that they're not up on a dance floor. They're not sitting at a dining table dining on incredible food at this incredible event. They're sitting in front of their phone or in front of their iPad, in front of their computer. So keep it short, keep it sweet, and get to the point.
That's an amazing way to end.
Kind of like how I wrap, just like that.
Way to go, Darren.
Yeah. It's really hard to be an MC when I'm like with these expert MCs. So I don't know how I can top that ending. But I will say, Darren and Ken and Adam, we are going to show little clips right after this of some entertainment and virtual events that you've worked on. Ken, do you want to do any setup of what we're about to see?
I'll just surprise you with it. What I'm going to show you are some segments from some live musical entertainment bits that we put together for one of our charitable events, Almost Home Kids, and they had a great event. It was very successful.
Well, you're going to love these. I asked Ken, can I share these on social media? He's like, no, don't share them. I was so excited, so I'm not sharing them. So, you guys. Darren, what about what you're going to show?
Yeah, we pulled a clip from a recent event that aired, and I mentioned before for City Harvest, a great organization. The theme of it was the show must go on, which is so apropos to, I think most struggling artists right now through the pandemic, through everybody that's, really caught up in what was a horrible shutdown in New York and hopefully not having another one. But the clip goes into some of the specialty performances we had, some of the celebrity moments, and some of the heartfelt moments. And I think even in 60 seconds, you'll see a little bit of that journey.
Yeah, I saw one of your clips and I'm like, is this a professional show, Darren? Or is this custom entertainment? Like, it's custom entertainment. That's
all
crazy.
Film right here.
So good at the cabaret. And when we can get back in person, I'm coming to the cabaret for karaoke night. Adam, and I know you're going to show kind of a montage of some of your virtual events as well. So very excited to show you right after this. I did want to give my little thank you to the panel. You guys are really experts at what you do and so talented and adjusted so quickly, and you made it seem seamless, but I know it was very difficult to move into this new world of virtual events. So I thank you for all you're doing for the industry, for your clients, for sharing your ideas. Next up in our main event, we talk about things going wrong. Mindy Weiss is joining us right after this. The first virtual event with Mindy Weiss, so many people came, our platform crashed. So again, we picked it up, we moved it to Instagram Live. Everyone seemed to understand, but this next session, I promise you, the platform will not go down. So I'm so excited to invite celebrity planner Mindy Weiss to our next session. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy the videos, and we'll be right back after this with Mindy Weiss. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, everyone.
So I'd like to introduce you to my good friend, Ted, and I know Ted mixes a mean martini.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Ken mentioned, we are Oh What a Night, and we're excited to be here with you this evening to share some of our music on this martini-inspired virtual gala, benefiting such a wonderful organization of Almost Home Kids. Sherry, Sherry baby, Sherry baby,
Sherry, won't you come out tonight?
come out tonight.
Big 2020 party over, out of sight. So tonight I'm gonna party like it's 2021. Don't you wanna go 2021? Don't you wanna go 2021?
And I think to myself, I say, what a wonderful world we're living in. It's so good to be alive. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful, beautiful world.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Zakarian, and I want to thank you for joining me for City Harvest Bid 2020.
Welcome to City Harvest Bid 2020. Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. So tell me, do you want to go where it's covered in all its colored lights, where the runaways are running the night? Impossible come true, it's taking over you. This is the greatest show.
Povinoi ci nasz pedał.
Yes, you. Make sure you go down there and take a picture at the photo booth. And don't forget to hashtag We Are City Harvest.
Let me see what you can do.
All right, y'all. It's time to move that furniture out of the way and turn that living room into a dance floor. Get ready to party with the On the Move band. Ha!
City Harvest, how you doing tonight?
Kill the lights and look right at me. Let's go crazy.
I just wanted to say thank you for joining us at the party. We've had a good time. Remember, no matter what's going on, the show must go on.